Start with the good news. James has a career day. Sean mentioned afterward in his opening statement that that doesn't happen though without the blocking of the offensive line, and that extends to the wide receivers, the tight ends, Reggie. Your guys' commitment to downfield blocking for him. How much of a shining example was yesterday, and how big is that for the offense?
Yeah, it's man, I loved. You don't run for that many yards by just making people miss. And don't get me wrong, that's how you end up getting big explosive touchdowns. But we preach touchdown blocks from backside wide receivers, and sometimes, man, it's just a sprint, and you might not even get to the guy, or the ball might not even get there. But it's a mindset, and part of what we ever talk about that everybody eats. It's well, if James Cook is having to stay in protection and block that linebacker for us to get open on a route, why aren't we going to then run and try to get him open on the run in the touchdown block? And so try to always showing examples of, hey, here's James doing this, now here's Elijah on the backside block, or here's Shaves digging out a safety right here, and how it all kind of goes together. And but I thought how connected the guys were in understanding the scheme, the alerts. We had a lot of checks on a lot of plays. I mean, that's a extremely tough defense to go against, much less run the ball against. And the guys understanding and being able to execute at a high level, and then to be able to make the adjustments, knowing they're going to make adjustments and still be able to do it, was really proud of the guys.
Passing game working to your satisfaction?
We didn't really need it yesterday. So, I mean, I'm always going to want it to be I'm always going to want everything to improve. But when we were running the ball yesterday, we didn't really need to pass it, especially once we kind of got rolling into the second half, and there's always elements that we got to clean up. I think there's opportunities out there yesterday that we didn't hit, and some of that is technique, some of that is pulling the trigger and making the decision, some of that is scheme related, right? So it's always a combination of it. But I think anytime you run the ball for 240, you're going to be pleased with how the game went, and fortunately you didn't have to pass the ball. But we've shown, like, you look back at the Baltimore game, like, we've shown if we need to pass the ball in passing situations, we can do it. And so I have no concerns with the pass game. Obviously, I'd love to go every game and run for 200 and throw for 300, but that wasn't how the game needed to be won yesterday.
To be fair, I mean, Josh went 6 for 13 in the first half.
Yeah.
And James didn't really get going until the second quarter.
First drive. He had some good runs on the first drive.
Right, but then that drive stalled. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Also, to your point, I mean, the passing game seemed to be working. It worked against Baltimore, but what happened against Atlanta and New England seemed to be some issues.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Where's that? But
no, I think, and that was part of the things that we looked at in the bye is we were definitely off against Atlanta, and we turned the ball off a lot against New England. Yesterday, there was, like I said, early in the game, we missed some opportunities in play action passes. And when you live in some third down situations, it's just going to be a little tough. Their guys obviously made some plays on some opportunities, some tight window throws. I mean, you can always just go off of just completions. If we throw 6 screens and we catch 6 screens, we're 6 for 6. That doesn't necessarily mean it's really good. We went into halftime saying, hey, we got to improve in the pass game, and hey, this is how they're trying to attack us right now with the way that we're running the ball, and we're going to need to do a better job at, hey, maybe it's some ball outs right here. Josh did a great job. It was a 4-yard completion that turns into a touchdown, with Khalil. But the way the game was being played yesterday, I didn't need to force anything, with that. So there's a lot on the call sheet that I liked that I would love to got to that honestly just didn't really need to.
Josh was frustrated with himself for some of those first half drives. What stands out to you about the way that he works? If he notices something in a game like that, he mentioned not trusting his feet. The way that he goes about self-correcting and then moving on.
Yeah, you guys know I trust Josh more than anyone. But look, he was at halftime. He knew. I looked him in the eye. He knew he wasn't playing to his. Look, he's the best player in the world, right? And there's a standard that he always wants to play with. And when he misses on a couple throws, when he misses on some decisions. When a drive stalls, especially with the way we were running it, it opens up the pass game, right? And so some of those opportunities, and I'll obviously trust Josh and all that. He does a great job of understanding, hey, what what happened there. What was the issue? Was it my mechanics? Was it my feet? Was it the ball placement? I didn't see it right. He was in a good place of seeing the defense. Some of those, like he's always going to be the hardest on it. But if it's showing up, I'm not working it enough, right? So it always going to start and end with me. But some of those, I think he understood as it was a little bit of his mechanics with his feet, with his, with some of the ball placement that, I think you can see him at halftime just tinkering with it. And I knew in the second half, if it had to be a passing game, we were going to be good to go with it.
Went back to rewatch the game. What was your reaction to Reggie Gilliam and some of the blocks that he made?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to get in a lot of big people runs, and you got every personnel grouping possible yesterday against it, and every front structure, and you get a guy like Reggie that some games he's going to not play a lot of reps, some games he's going to play a huge role, and he's always he cleans everything up. And there was a lot of muddy looks that on tape it looks like, hey man, that was exactly how we drew it up. That the guys were just all connected with it, and Reggie did an incredible job of hopping inside and cleaning it up for us and making a big play. And he's a huge part of who we are and what we do, and a guy that never gets any credit or doesn't get the production, but he just does his 1/11th at the highest standard, and good things happen when he's on the field.
Is it fair to say that at times over the last 3 weeks, especially 3 games, especially that it's been hard in the passing game? Like, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think one of the issues with the last couple of weeks in particular, where we were living off schedule, right? So you're playing in a bunch of almost called third down situations, right? And then we allowed, like you go back to the Atlanta game, we allowed them to, really tee off on us on second and longs, and I thought yesterday we did a better job of getting either manageable third downs or skipping third downs, or but yeah, I think anytime your completion percentage isn't at a high rate, anytime the balls aren't being pushed pushed down the field, anytime you're not throwing for touchdowns, you're naturally going to come in and say, hey, is there, what's the issue? To me, I look at it from a perspective of like, hey, if we're running the football, what does our play action game look like? If we're not able to run the football, we're probably going to be living in a drop back type of game, because if we're not able to run the football, now we're probably going to be living in some off schedule type of situations. And I don't care what team you are, it's always going to be tough just living in drop back nowadays. Yeah, I mean, when you look at us the last few weeks, we have to obviously improve in the pass game. I wouldn't say it's been hard, but in the situations that we're in, we're not helping ourselves get out of some of those situations, and a lot of it is showing up more on the 3rd and 7 to 10 situations that we haven't done it. We did a better job yesterday, but we hadn't done a good job prior to that. And once you're digging in a hole of 3rd and 7 to 10, it's hard to get out of. Next, we're punting. So that was a big part of emphasis. Again, like some of it wasn't to the standard in the first half, and things that we obviously area that we need to improve that just didn't necessarily need to show up in the second half.
Receiver was such a hot button topic in the offseason. Brandon had that exchange with one of the radio station. And then, I think a lot was made of Keon Coleman. He had a really good training camp. He comes out in that Baltimore game and has this great game. But since then, it's just been, it's felt like it's been hard to get him going in games. What's gone into that?
Yeah, I think, obviously, I'm always, like you guys know me, I'm going to say I obviously got to do a better job. I think it's a combination of, sometimes there is some games where, hey, we're trying to get him going, and Josh does a good job of progressing, and next Dalton gets the catch, and hey, it's a good job. It's I try to. You always want to try to get certain guys involved, but you also don't want to just force throws. I think Keon is doing a much better job of his attention to detail and his focus in the run game. I thought that was evident yesterday. I thought you can see that and how that's going to open up and allow him to stay on the field a little more, especially in the pass game, where he's not always just the single into the boundary. I thought he had his best week of practice. Again, I want to get him going more in the pass game. I thought he'd have good opportunities in the Atlanta game. We just didn't. Some of those situations didn't end up occurring, but I think he's in a good headspace. And I think as our offense, I said it last year, I thought we didn't hit our ground kind of going until the Seattle game, and we're around that point this year where it's time to kind of put it all connected together, run game, pass game, and kind of feel hey, who we're going to be as an offense. And, we did a good job in the run game yesterday, but now we got to put it together as complementary football type of thought.
Used Dalton, I think maybe 14 snaps. I would imagine some of that maybe was score related, that you didn't have to overextend him. But just his presence and when you're able to have those three tight ends, not necessarily on the field altogether, although you've had success when you've done that, but having all three of them available and engaged in the game, would you agree with the assessment that it feels like the offense is that's a big part of your identity?
Oh, absolutely. It's it was. There was I didn't do a good enough job in the Atlanta game adjusting once we found out he's not playing, and I wish I would have got Dawson Knox involved more in that game, but the versatility and that room gives us both in the run game and the pass game and the different skill sets that they have. We do. I mean, with the last 3rd and 7, we were in 22 personnel yesterday. The one that he completed down, into the 2-yard line to Hawsey. And so those guys they do things the right way, and they're at the spots where they need to get to, and it puts defenses in stressful situations on how they want to handle, because they also can make plays in the pass game. But I love where they're at, and what we're able to do in the run game is what they're able to do has been huge for us, and it's opened up naturally the play actions and the versatility where now teams have to figure out, hey, how are they playing this personnel grouping with these people on the field, and kind of that chess match as we kind of go.
Joe, you spoke about putting it together last year around the Seattle game. I think sometimes fans watching a game think, oh, an offense is put together from the get-go, but it takes a lot more than that. Generally speaking, why does it take NFL offenses at large weeks to come together?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not always that case, and I don't think it is always that case. Sometimes you're trying to figure out who you are, playing against different type of schemes and 5-down structures, 4-down structures, different. You have a thought of who you're going to be as the season goes. Sometimes you're playing defenses that. We played a few coordinators that didn't call games last year, and you don't know exactly how they're gonna play this game, and how what that's gonna look like on tape. And it's excuses, right? You want to come out and frickin' play to your standard from the jump. But the league is growing, and is the way defenses are being played is growing, and everyone's getting a feel of like, hey, this year, what is it going to take to win football games? And we're trying to figure out through injuries and offense, defense, special teams, like how we have to win, not just like as an offense, but how do we have to win as a full football team. That involves like how I'm going to call plays and how our offense is going to go, and all of that stuff is big. And sometimes that takes time as you're kind of going where you're going into the season. You're just thinking about it yourself as an offense. And so that's part of the growth for us and as our offense is understand like what does it take to win this game as a football team, and we got to make sure we do whatever that's going to take. Awesome. Thank you, guys.